The moment Eliza Montgomery walked into the office that Monday morning, every employee froze. Her gaze swept across the open floor plan until it locked with mine. I felt my heart stop as she strode purposefully toward my desk, the same woman who just 48 hours earlier had been sobbing uncontrollably in my passenger seat, mascara streaking down her face as she begged me not to tell anyone what happened. What would she say now? Would she fire me to bury her shame? Or would she pretend nothing happened, like most bosses would? If you've ever found yourself caught in an impossible situation between doing what's right and protecting your livelihood, hit that like button. And if you want more stories about ordinary people facing extraordinary moments of truth, subscribe to the channel now. Trust me, you'll want to see how this one ends. My name is Daniel Carter. 36 years old, single father to an amazing 10-year-old daughter named Sophie, and senior account manager at Pinnacle Marketing Solutions. Not where I expected to be at this point in my life, but life has a way of rewriting your plans when you least expect it. 3 years ago, my wife Melissa died in a car accident, leaving me to raise Sophie alone. The grief nearly destroyed me, but Sophie needed me, so I learned to function again. I threw myself into being both mother and father to her while maintaining my career. It wasn't easy, but we were making it work. Eliza Montgomery had been my boss for just over a year. At 34, she was the youngest executive director in the company's history, brilliant, driven, and intimidating. The office rumors painted her as cold and calculating, a woman who'd sacrificed everything personal for professional success. She demanded perfection and showed little patience for excuses or failure. Most of the staff feared her. I simply respected her efficiency and tried to stay off her radar. That strategy worked perfectly until last Friday night. The company holiday party was in full swing at the Westbrook Hotel downtown. I'd arranged for Sophie to have a sleepover at her best friend's house so I could make an appearance. Office politics required at least a brief showing, even though social gatherings had become something I endured rather than enjoyed since Melissa's death. I was planning my exit strategy when I noticed Eliza by the bar. She'd already had several drinks, unusual for someone who prided herself on control. Her cheeks were flushed, and she was arguing with James Peterson, our client relations director and notorious office flirt. "Everything okay here?" I asked, approaching them cautiously. James had his hand on Eliza's arm. She was trying to pull away. "Mind your business, Carter," James slurred. "The boss and I are having a private conversation." Eliza's eyes met mine, and I saw something I'd never seen before: vulnerability. "Actually, Eliza promised me a ride home," I lied smoothly. "My sitter just texted that she needs me back earlier than expected." James looked between us suspiciously, but Eliza immediately played along. "That's right," she said, extracting herself from his grip. "Sorry, James. Duty calls." I guided her away from the bar, expecting her to thank me and return to the party. Instead, she whispered, "I actually do need to leave. I shouldn't have had that last martini." "I can call you a cab," I offered. She shook her head. "I drove here. I need my car tomorrow." "I can drive you home in your car," I suggested. "I'll just grab an Uber back." The relief on her face was palpable. "Would you?" "I'd really appreciate it." 20 minutes later, we were in her sleek BMW, navigating through downtown. She was quiet at first, staring out the window as the city lights blurred past. Then, without warning, she started to cry. "I'm sorry," she said, wiping furiously at her tears. "God, this is so unprofessional." "It's okay," I said awkwardly. "Everyone has rough nights." "James wouldn't leave me alone," she said. "He kept pushing drinks on me, touching me. Said it was time I'd loosened up around the office." My grip tightened on the steering wheel. "That's harassment, Eliza. You should report him." She laughed bitterly. "And be labeled the ice queen who can't take a joke. The board already watches me like hawks, waiting for any sign of weakness. We drove in silence for a few minutes before she spoke again. "Turn right at the next light. There's a diner there. I need coffee before I go home." The diner was nearly empty at that hour. We slid into a booth, and Eliza ordered black coffee. I got the same. When the waitress left, Eliza studied me with red-rimmed eyes. "Why did you help me back there, Daniel? We're hardly friends." The question caught me off guard. It was the right thing to do. "You seemed uncomfortable." "The right thing," she repeated, as if testing the concept. "Most people do what's convenient, not what's right." "My daughter is watching everything I do," I explained. "I try to be someone she can be proud of." Something in Eliza's expression softened. "Sophie, right? You have her picture on your desk." I nodded, surprised she'd noticed. "Your wife?" she asked hesitantly. "She died 3 years ago. Car accident." Eliza's hand flew to her mouth. "I'm so sorry. I had no idea. It's not something I advertise at work." She nodded, understanding. "How do you do it? Balance everything alone?" And somehow, in that fluorescent-lit diner at midnight, I found myself telling my intimidating boss about the challenges of single parenthood. About the school plays and science projects. About teaching Sophie to ride a bike and braid her own hair. About the nights I still cried in the shower where Sophie couldn't hear me. Eliza listened intently, asking thoughtful questions. When I finished, she was quiet for a long moment. "I admire you," she finally said. "You've built something real. Something that matters." Before I could respond, her phone rang. She glanced at it and her face paled. "It's my mother," she said, then answered with forced cheerfulness. "Hi, Mom." I tried not to eavesdrop, but it was impossible in the quiet diner. Her mother was clearly upset about something. "No, I understand," Eliza said, her voice tight. "Yes, I know the appointment is important. I'll be there." "Yes, I promise." When she hung up, her hands were shaking. "Everything okay?" I asked. She shook her head. "My father has Alzheimer's. Early onset. He's only 62. Her voice cracked. "He has good days and bad days. Today was apparently very bad. He didn't recognize my mother at all." "I'm so sorry," I said, meaning it. "I visit every Saturday," she continued. "Tomorrow, well, today now, is his doctor's appointment. Mom needs me there, but I also have the Peterson presentation to finish for Monday." "The Peterson presentation?" I asked, confused. I thought that was already approved. James rejected my draft yesterday. Said it needed a complete overhaul. Her laugh was hollow. "Now I understand why. He wanted me desperate and working all weekend so I'd be more receptive to his help." My mind raced. The Peterson account was crucial for the company, and for Eliza's position. If she failed to deliver, the board would have the excuse they needed. "I can help," I offered before I could think better of it. "I've been working on the account too. I know what they're looking for." She stared at me. "You do that? Work on a Saturday? Sophie has a playdate tomorrow afternoon. I can work then." Eliza studied me for a long moment. "Why would you help me like this?" I shrugged. "Because you need it. And because I'd want someone to do the same for me." For the first time that night, she smiled, a genuine smile that transformed her face. "Thank you, Daniel." We finished our coffee and I drove her home, a modest but elegant townhouse in a quiet neighborhood. She invited me in to show me the presentation files on her laptop. As she pulled them up, I noticed a photo on her desk, a younger Eliza with an older couple, all smiling on a beach. "Your parents?" I asked. She nodded, a sad smile playing on her lips. 2 years ago. Before Dad's diagnosis. He has your smile, I observed. He was the kindest man I've ever known, she said softly. Always put others first. Mom and I first. His students second. He was a professor of literature. He used to say that how we treat people when it doesn't benefit us reveals our true character. She turned to face me. Like what you did tonight. I felt my cheeks warm under her gaze. It wasn't a big deal. It was to me. Her eyes welled with tears again. God, I'm sorry. I never cry, and tonight I can't seem to stop. Without thinking, I reached out and squeezed her hand. Sometimes we all need to fall apart a little. She squeezed back, then quickly released my hand and turned to her computer. Let me show you what I have so far. We spent the next hour going through her presentation. Despite the alcohol and emotion, her work was impressive. I made a few suggestions, and she took notes with the focus I recognized from the office. By the time I called an Uber, it was nearly 2 a.m. At her door, she hesitated. Daniel, about tonight. I'd appreciate discretion. Of course, I assured her. What happens at the holiday party stays at the holiday party. She smiled gratefully. Thank you. For everything. The next day, I worked on the presentation while Sophie was at her friend's house. I emailed my suggestions to Eliza that evening but didn't hear back. I figured she was busy with her father's appointment and would check in when she could. Sunday passed without contact. I wondered if she regretted showing vulnerability to an employee. Maybe Monday would bring a return to our professional distance, with no acknowledgement of what had happened. I prepared myself for that possibility. Which brings us back to Monday morning, with Eliza walking purposefully toward my desk, her expression unreadable. Daniel, she said formally. Could I see you in my office, please? The whispers started immediately as I followed her. Office gossip would be working overtime today. Once her door closed behind us, she turned to face me. Your suggestions for the presentation were excellent. I incorporated all of them. I'm glad I could help, I said cautiously. Help? She shook her head. Daniel, you saved me. The presentation is perfect now. I just finished a preliminary call with Peterson, and they love it. I smiled, relieved. That's great news. It is. She took a deep breath. But that's not why I called you in here. Here it comes, I thought. The request to forget Friday night ever happened. I wanted to thank you properly, she continued. Not just for the presentation, but for everything. For helping me at the party. For listening. For being kind when you had no reason to be. I blinked in surprise. You don't need to thank me. Yes, I do. She straightened her shoulders. I also owe you an apology. I've been difficult to work with. I've been so focused on proving myself that I forgot what my father always taught me about leadership, that it's about bringing out the best in others, not just demanding it. You're under a lot of pressure, I said. That's no excuse. She met my eyes directly. My father had a good day on Saturday. He recognized me, asked about my job. I told him about you, what you did for me. How you helped without expecting anything in return. Her voice softened. He said I should learn from you. That I should remember what matters most isn't the next promotion or account, but the people we impact along the way. I didn't know what to say. I've made a decision, she continued. I'm restructuring my schedule to spend more time with my parents while I still can. Which means I need a second in command I can trust. She smiled. I'd like that to be you, Daniel. Assistant director, with flexible hours so you can be there for Sophie. My mouth fell open. Are you serious? Completely. You've more than earned it with your work. And after Friday, I know you have the character for leadership. I don't know what to say. Say yes, she urged. And maybe. She hesitated, suddenly less confident. Maybe you and Sophie would join me for dinner sometime? My father would love to meet you both. He makes an excellent lasagna on his good days. The invitation surprised me more than the promotion. We'd like that, I found myself saying. Her smile was radiant. Good. And Daniel? I want you to know, I'm not pretending Friday night didn't happen. I'm grateful for it. It reminded me of who I want to be. As I left her office, I felt something I hadn't experienced in a long time, hope. Not just professionally, but personally. The weight I'd carried since Melissa died felt slightly lighter. That night, as Sophie and I ate dinner, she asked about my day. It was good, I told her. Really good, actually. I got a promotion. That's awesome, Dad, she exclaimed. Was your boss happy? I smiled, remembering Eliza's transformed face. Yes, she was. And you know what? We've been invited to dinner at her house sometime. She has a father who makes great lasagna. Sophie's eyes widened. Like a date? No, I laughed. Just, new friends. But as I said it, I wondered. Life has a way of surprising you when you least expect it. Sometimes with tragedy, like losing Melissa. But sometimes with unexpected connections that remind you healing is possible. One act of kindness had changed everything, not just for Eliza, but for me too. By helping someone else find their way back to what matters, I'd somehow found my own path forward as well. So there you have it, friends. Sometimes the most important moments in our lives come disguised as inconveniences. A holiday party we don't want to attend. A colleague in need when we're already stretched thin. But those moments, the ones where we choose compassion over convenience, those are the ones that can change everything. If this story touched your heart, please hit that like button and subscribe for more stories that remind us of our shared humanity. And remember, in a world where you can be anything, be kind. Because you never know whose life you might change, including your own.